Hey, this is Anthony, and welcome to Dad on the Field, episode 6. This is going to be a short episode. Just want to talk about conquering fear and how we can deal with fear in our everyday lives, whether that be as a dad or a parent, as a leader at work, or in sports. I think that there's a lot of overlaps of the concept of fear and how we react to it and how we can live with it and how we can eventually conquer it. So just to start off, how do people perceive fear? Where does fear come from? And the fact is that fear is an evolutionary response, and it can manifest itself in a variety of different ways. The most common being a fight or flight response, which is now what we call anxiety. Your heart beating rapidly, fearing or dreading the worst thing is going to happen to you. And ultimately that's being driven by fear of the situation, fear of the unknown. And that comes from, when we were in a different situation as human beings, and our ancestors, having this response as an evolutionary feeling to get us out of certain situations, for the most part, being prey, and being able to run and either fight or run away. So what we have to do now that we're in a different situation as humans is control that evolutionary response. And that goes against every fiber of our being. And so you're never going to really get rid of this fight or flight, this anxiety feeling. But what we can do is to be aware of it and then watch it go by, watch it go through us and get out on the other side. And there's techniques with breathing, but I'm going to really speak to more of the thought process as you encounter fear and as you prepare for fear. And I say prepare for fear because there's certain situations that you're going to get into in life where the experience is coming, right? And one of these is public speaking, for example, or asking a question, or having to introduce yourself as a new person in any situation, or knowing that a play was drawn up for you specifically, right, in sports. These are situations where you can project that fear is going to come your way, right? So having that expectation already puts you ahead of the curve in terms of awareness. If you have a speech the next day, or you're waiting and about to go on, you will feel your heart start to increase. And that's going to come. So how do you deal with that? Right? You can practice your breathing prior to the feeling coming, knowing how you're going to breathe. I use the 4-second box method. So in 3, 4, hold it for 4, breathe out for 4, hold it for another 4. And you just do that until your heart starts to regulate, till your body stops being so tense, right? And when your body starts to relax, your mind can relax, and you can understand this isn't a fight or flight, life or death situation. All I'm doing is speaking to something that you most likely know a lot about, right? And everything's going to be okay. So preparing for the fear will help us to go through those breathing, to go through those thoughts, those positive thoughts that everything's going to be okay, that you're going to do really well, that you're prepared, and take you back down to just being a human, being able to have a conversation rather than this animalistic evolutionary behavior of extreme anxiety in a situation like that. And the same goes for sports, right? You can have that sort of fight or flight experience, breathe, and have these thoughts to yourself if you prepare the right way, if you don't have unrealistic expectations that, hey, I'm not going to be nervous tomorrow. I know exactly what I'm doing. Or, if I get the last shot of the buzzer, I know exactly what I'm going to do. And, I'm really, really good in that situation. Because the reality is when that play is being drawn up, you're going to get a little bit nervous, right? The reality is when you're about to go on stage, you're going to get a little bit nervous. So you have to prep yourself. Like, this is going to happen. This is not surprising. I know that I'm going to feel this fight or flight anxiety feeling. And that's how you can conquer fear in those situations, is the preparation. And then in the moment, it's about keeping that positive mindset that you prepared for, right? Oh, I knew this was going to happen. I recognize this feeling. I recognize this anxiety. I know what to do. I know how to breathe through it. And I know my breathing techniques. And guess what? I also already talked to myself the right way. So I'm going to do really well. I'm prepared. I know exactly my form, and what I'm supposed to do in this play. This goes throughout sports. This goes throughout leadership public speaking, things like that. And finally, there's other ways that we can conquer the larger term, larger term fear that we have. And I'm talking about fears of like, I'm not going to be successful. I'm never going to make it. Things are not going to work out for me. This feeling of dread, like this is a common fear that people have, a lot of thoughts that people have. And, sometimes you refer to it as Sunday scaries or something like that. So this is a fear that is longer term. It happens recurring, and it has to do with like bigger moments than just this play, this game, this speech, this time I have to introduce myself as a new person, right? Those are short term little spurts of fear, but then there's that longer term, even fear of death, fear of health, these things that are somewhat out of our control. So how do you deal with that? I'm going to revisit that on the next episode of Dad on the Field.